Montana is not a place that announces itself. It does not demand attention, nor does it rush to be understood. It reveals itself slowly, through distance, through silence, through scale. Here, the land stretches wide and unbroken. Rivers carve their way through valleys that have changed little in thousands of years. Mountains rise without spectacle, their presence steady, enduring, indifferent to time. This is a land shaped not by sudden drama, but by patience. Seasons move deliberately here. Winter settles in without apology, pressing snow deep into the plains and the forests alike. Spring does not arrive all at once. It hesitates, retreats, and returns again. Summer is brief, generous, and unforgiving in its brightness. And autumn comes quietly, draining the colour from the land as preparation begins once more. Montana is not ruled by a single force. It is held together by balance. Predators do not dominate, they participate. Prey does not simply endure, it adapts. Every movement, every pause, every decision is shaped by the land itself. This is not wilderness as chaos, it is wilderness as order. Across the open plains, the wind moves freely, carrying sound for miles. In the forests, silence settles thick between the trees, broken only by distant calls or the snap of frozen branches. High above, the mountains stand as boundaries and refuges, shaping the lives below them. To survive here is not to conquer nature, it is to listen to it. Animals of Montana do not live at the edge of constant conflict. They live within rhythms, ancient, reliable, and uncompromising. Energy is conserved. Movement is measured. Mistakes are rarely forgiven. Nothing here is wasted. A track in the snow tells a story long after the animal has passed. A grazed meadow reveals patterns repeated year after year. Even absence has meaning, where something should be, but is not. This is a land that remembers. For centuries, long before borders or names, life followed these same paths. Migration routes carved into instinct. Hunting grounds chosen not for opportunity, but for survival. Shelter found not where it is convenient, but where it endures. Montana is not defined by spectacle. It is defined by continuity, and within this vast, seemingly quiet landscape, life unfolds every day. Unseen, unobserved, yet deeply connected. Wolves moving along forest edges, elk crossing open plains at dawn, bison standing unmoved against the wind, sheep navigating cliffs where a single misstep means the end. Each species is part of a larger system. Each life, a thread in a fabric far older than any observer. To understand Montana, one must slow down. Look beyond the obvious, listen longer than feels comfortable. Because here, survival is not loud, it is steady. And it is in that steadiness, that quiet persistence, that the true wild heart of Montana reveals itself. In Montana, the presence of wolves is rarely announced. They do not dominate the landscape through noise or spectacle. They exist through awareness. Grey wolves move as part of the land itself, appearing, disappearing, tracks, echoes. Their survival depends not on strength alone, but on judgment. A wolf does not rush. It watches first. It listens. Within a pack, every individual has a role, not by dominance, by necessity. Movement is coordinated, decisions are shared, conflict is rare. This is not chaos. It is structure. Across Montana's forests and open valleys, wolves follow routes learned over generations, paths etched into memory rather than maps. They travel along ridge lines, through tree lines, across frozen rivers, efficiency over speed. Energy is a resource here, not something to be wasted. During winter, when food is scarce and the cold presses deep into the land, wolves rely on restraint and endurance. They move less, they wait longer, they choose carefully. A single poor decision can weaken the entire pack. Wolves are often described as relentless hunters, but most of their time is spent not hunting, observing, evaluating herds, tracking movement, reading the land. They understand when not to act. Communication within the pack is subtle. A shift in posture, a glance held slightly longer, a change in pace. Sound is used sparingly, not for constant contact, but for meaning. A howl carries across the land, not as a challenge, but as connection. Locate, reassure, define presence without confrontation. In Montana's wide spaces, this matters. Wolves are not solitary rulers. They are participants in a larger system. Balance over domination. Their presence shapes movement, behavior, and even the land itself. Where wolves move, herds move differently. Where herds move differently, vegetation recovers. Rivers change course. Forests grow thicker. Life finds new space. This influence is quiet, indirect and powerful. Yet wolves remain cautious. They do not linger where risk grows. They avoid open confrontation. They adapt quickly to change. Weather, terrain, human presence. Survival here is not about being fearless. It is about being aware. As night settles over Montana, wolves become almost invisible. Their shapes blend into shadow. Their movement becomes part of the darkness itself. Only sometimes does their presence reveal itself, through a distant howl carried by the wind, echoing across valleys and forests. Not a declaration, not a threat, just a reminder that the land is alive, that it is watched, and that in Montana survival belongs to those who understand when to move and when to remain unseen. Across Montana's open plains and along the low, wind-cut valleys, elk breathe with the land's pulse and forest edges. Movement defines survival. Not haste, but direction. Routes remembered, seasons to seasons, meadow to meadow. Few animals embody movement like the elk. Their lives are shaped by migration, a constant search for balance between food, safety, and changing weather. Cows lead. Calves learn the pace, tucked close to sheltering bodies. In spring, herds rise with the snow line, following melt and fresh growth. In summer, they spread across higher ground, grazing in meadows and along forest margins. Then autumn arrives, and the land fills with sound. A deep, echoing bugle cuts the cool air. Not aggressive, not desperate, but commanding. A signal of presence, of strength, of continuity. During the rut, the plains become a stage of tension and display. Males move restlessly, testing one another without needless conflict. Most encounters end before they begin. Posture, sound, and distance doing the work. When bodies meet, it is brief, wood on wood, then air and space again. Elk are large, but not careless. Even while feeding, heads rise, ears pivot, eyes scan. Scent rides downslope. They read it like a map. Life on the plains is governed by perception, sensing change before it fully arrives. For elk, survival is rarely decided in chaos, but in the quiet seconds that precede it. Herd structure forms the foundation of this balance. A lead cow chooses when to cross. Others wait. Water speaks of depth and current. Hooves test stones in silence. Winter slows everything. Snow covers the plains and food grows hard to reach. Yarding begins, groups tightening in sheltered timber, wind at their backs. Herds gather larger, conserving warmth and energy. Movement becomes deliberate, calculated. They choose routes worn smooth by generations. Tracks script the snow long after bodies pass. Every step matters. Despite their size, they can explode into speed. When threatened, the plains erupt. But flight is a last option. Most of the time, distance is enough, early detection is enough, space is enough. Their presence shapes the land. Through grazing, they steer growth. Through migration, they redistribute life. Through sound, they mark the seasons. As daylight fades, herds drift toward shelter. Movement slows, voices quiet. The plains return to silence, but not emptiness. Even in stillness, elk remain in motion, drawn by rhythm and the unbroken pull of the land. Dawn breaks over the rugged peaks of the Montana wilderness, casting a golden glow across a vast and ancient landscape. A land shaped by ice, time, and relentless natural forces. Here, survival is never guaranteed. Every day is earned. Amidst this raw and untamed environment lives one of North America's most formidable creatures. The grizzly bear, a symbol of wilderness in its purest form, powerful, solitary, unpredictable. Its domain stretches across sweeping valleys, dense forests, and windswept alpine meadows. Territory measured not in distance, but in dominance. Every movement through this land carries purpose. Every decision holds consequence. With a massive frame built for endurance and strength, the grizzly is a master of its environment. Muscle and instinct combined into a perfectly evolved survivor. Yet beneath this intimidating exterior lies something even more remarkable: precision. Watch closely. Despite its size, the grizzly moves with surprising silence, a giant capable of near invisibility. Each step deliberate, each motion efficient. Its world is governed by senses far beyond human perception, a constant stream of information carried by wind, sound, and scent. For the grizzly, the wilderness is never still. It is alive with signals. A faint shift in the air may reveal opportunity or danger. A subtle sniff detects the distant sweetness of ripening berries hidden beyond ridges and slopes. A critical resource in a world where calories define survival. Because life for the grizzly is dictated by a relentless equation. Energy gained, energy spent. Seasons bring cycles of abundance and hardship, moments of plenty followed by periods of scarcity. There is no comfort in this existence, only adaptation. The grizzly's diet reflects the diversity of its domain. Roots, grasses, insects, berries, each playing a role in sustaining its enormous body. And when the opportunity arises, more substantial rewards. A carcass left behind by winter's cruelty, a vulnerable elk, a sudden chance that cannot be ignored. In this ecosystem, nothing is wasted. Nothing is taken lightly. Every meal is survival extended, but dominance does not eliminate challenge. Rival bears roam overlapping territories. Competitors drawn by the same instincts, the same needs. Encounters are rare, but never trivial. A glance, a posture, a silent calculation of risk. Conflict is costly. Injury can mean death. And so, even the wilderness's most powerful inhabitants must respect restraint. As daylight strengthens, the grizzly continues its ancient routine, driven not by malice or aggression, but by necessity. A creature bound entirely to the rhythms of nature. In Montana's wilderness, strength alone is not enough. Awareness, efficiency, patience. These are the true currencies of survival, and few embody them more completely than the grizzly bear. In the quiet wetlands and shadowed forests of Montana, a giant moves almost without sound. The moose, the largest member of the deer family, is an animal that feels less like wildlife and more like a relic from another age. A survivor of the Ice Age, perfectly adapted to a world of cold mornings, still water, and deep wilderness. Despite its immense size, a bull moose can vanish into the landscape with astonishing ease. Long legs carry it through marshes and snowfields where other animals struggle, while its dark coat blends into the muted colors of the northern forest. There is a strange contrast to the moose, overwhelming power wrapped in quiet, deliberate movement. For most of the year, moose live solitary lives. They browse patiently on willow, birch, and aquatic plants, often standing belly-deep in lakes and ponds. These waters are more than feeding grounds. They are refugees from heat and insects, offering relief in the warmer months. Yet beneath this calm presence lies a creature of remarkable resilience. Winters in Montana are unforgiving. Temperatures plunge, snow deepens, and food becomes scarce. But the moose is built for endurance. Its thick insulating fur and massive body conserve heat, while its height allows it to reach vegetation buried beneath snow. A toss of the withers sends beads of water into sun. In a season defined by scarcity, the moose persists through efficiency and patience rather than speed. When autumn arrives, the stillness of the forest changes. The rutting season transforms these normally quiet animals into restless wanderers. Bulls, driven by ancient instincts, move across vast territories in search of mates. Their colossal antlers, grown and shed each year, become both weapons and signals of dominance. The first weeks are a narrow bridge. Calves memorize the pace of caution, the shape of cover, the distance that equals safety. The deep, resonant calls of moose echo through valleys and woodlands, carrying messages of strength, challenge, and opportunity. Encounters between rival bulls can be dramatic and violent. Two giants clash in contests that determine breeding rights. These battles are intense displays of power and stamina, reminders that even the most peaceful creatures are bound to cycles of competition. For cows, survival revolves around a different priority: the next generation. Posture speaks first. Neck tall, antlers wide, hooves set to hold. Generation. In spring, calves are born into a world of fragile abundance. Their first weeks are precarious. Predators and weather pose constant threats. They answer with economy, choosing leeward slopes, dark timber that catches drifting snow, south faces where the sun bites a little deeper. Predators such as wolves and bears shape the moose's world. Calves and weakened individuals remain vulnerable, creating a balance that influences the entire ecosystem. The presence of danger is not an anomaly. It is an essential thread in the wilderness. Even so, the moose can swim a river without hurry, can cross a beaver pond as if walking the surface of calm. Their survival reflects the stability of the landscapes they inhabit, not dominance, presence, a boundary drawn by mass and patience. To see a moose in Montana is often an unexpected privilege. There is no spectacle, only a sudden awareness, a dark shape among trees, an animal that seems both ancient and alive. Moments later, it may be gone, leaving behind only silence. In a land of mountains and predators, the moose stands as a symbol of endurance, defined not by speed or aggression, but by patience, strength, and adaptation. Across the open plains of North America moves one of the continent's most iconic and resilient animals, the American bison. Massive, deliberate, and seemingly prehistoric in appearance, bison are living symbols of wilderness, endurance, and survival against overwhelming odds. At first glance, their size commands attention. Adult males can weigh over 900 kilograms, their muscular shoulders crowned by a thick hump of powerful muscle designed for sweeping snow aside and pushing through harsh winter landscapes. Beneath their heavy fur and formidable horns lies an animal perfectly adapted to extremes. Scorching summers, freezing winters, and relentless winds that shape the grasslands they inhabit. Despite their bulk, bison are remarkably agile. They can run at speeds exceeding 50 kilometers per hour and pivot with surprising quickness. What appears slow and lumbering can transform into explosive power within seconds. a critical advantage in a world once dominated by predators such as wolves and grizzly bears. Bison are deeply social creatures. Herd life offers protection, communication, and structure. Cows, calves, and younger males travel together, while dominant bulls drift between groups, especially during the breeding season. Within the herd, subtle body language governs interactions. The angle of a head, the position of a tail, the tension of a stance. Conflict is often resolved through display rather than violence, conserving energy in an environment where survival depends on efficiency. The rhythm of bison life follows the pulse of the prairie. Grazing is constant, shaping both the animal and the ecosystem. Their feeding patterns influence plant growth, soil health, and even the distribution of other species. In this way, bison are not merely inhabitants of the plains. They are ecological engineers, quietly maintaining balance across vast landscapes. Yet the story of the bison is inseparable from human history. Once numbering in the tens of millions, their populations collapsed in the 19th century due to industrial-scale hunting and expansion across the continent. What had been one of Earth's greatest wildlife spectacles was reduced to the brink of extinction within a few decades. The silence that followed reshaped entire ecosystems and cultures. Their survival today stands as one of conservation's most extraordinary recoveries. Protected herds now roam national parks, reserves, and managed lands. Though their numbers remain a fraction of historical levels, the return of bison represents more than the restoration of a species. It signals the resilience of nature when given space and protection. To watch a bison herd move across a windswept plain is to glimpse a fragment of deep time. Their presence connects modern landscapes to an ancient past, reminding us that wilderness is not a relic, but a living system still capable of renewal. In the stillness of dawn or the glow of evening light, the silhouettes of bison against the horizon evoke a powerful truth. Survival is not defined by dominance, but by adaptation, endurance, and the fragile coexistence between life and environment. Across the wide grasslands of North America moves an animal that seems almost unreal in its speed and grace. The pronghorn is often mistaken for an antelope, yet it belongs to a unique lineage found nowhere else on Earth. Long before highways, fences, and settlements reshaped the continent, pronghorns ran across these plains. At first glance, the pronghorn appears delicate. Slender legs, large eyes, a light frame built for efficiency. But this design conceals one of the most extraordinary athletic abilities in the animal kingdom. Pronghorns are the fastest land mammals in the Western Hemisphere, capable of sustaining speeds that would exhaust nearly any predator alive today. Their bodies are engineered for endurance as much as acceleration. Oversized lungs, an enormous heart, and a respiratory system that floods their muscles with oxygen. The fastest land mammal in North America, clearing danger in heartbeats, then settling to conserve. Unlike true antelopes of Africa, the pronghorn follows its own evolutionary path. Even its horns are unique, a permanent bony core, topped by a sheath that is shed and regrown each year. This strange feature reflects the animal's distinct identity. a survivor from an ancient branch of hoofed mammals that once included many now extinct relatives. Vision defines the pronghorn's world. Its eyes, among the largest relative to body size of any land animal, can detect movement at astonishing distances. On the open plains, where concealment is nearly impossible, early detection is survival. Within seconds, a pronghorn can transform from stillness to blinding velocity, covering vast ground with effortless strides. Yet speed alone does not tell the full story. Pronghorns are creatures of migration and memory, following seasonal routes etched into instinct over thousands of years. Harsh winters drive them toward windswept valleys where snow lies thinner. Summer draws them back to richer grazing lands. But modern barriers, roads, fences, human development interrupt pathways older than civilization itself, forcing these animals to navigate a fragmented landscape. Social, yet vigilant, pronghorns often gather in loose groups, their collective awareness forming a network of watchful senses. Each individual contributes to the safety of the herd, scanning constantly for danger. When alarm spreads, the reaction is immediate and synchronized. Bodies launch forward, white rumps flashing like signals across the grass. To witness a pronghorn in motion is to glimpse a relic of a vanished world. On these plains, where sky and earth meet without obstruction, the pronghorn endures, a symbol of motion, perception, and the ancient rhythm of open landscapes. High above the rugged wilderness of Montana, where wind sculpts the ridgelines and silence stretches for miles, a shadow moves with effortless authority. The golden eagle, one of North America's most formidable aerial predators, rules a domain defined not by borders, but by altitude, vision, and patience. Every feather, every muscle, every subtle adjustment of its wings speaks to a lifetime spent navigating invisible currents. Unlike frantic flyers, the eagle wastes no energy. It soars, carried by thermals rising from sun-warmed slopes, conserving strength while scanning the land below with extraordinary precision. From astonishing distances, the eagle can detect the faintest movement. To the eagle, the landscape is not static. It is a living map of opportunity. But power alone does not define the golden eagle. It is, above all, a hunter of patience and timing. Hours may pass in silent observation, the bird gliding in wide arcs across valleys and cliffs. Then, in a sudden transformation, stillness becomes velocity. Wings fold, gravity takes hold. The eagle dives with breathtaking speed, a controlled descent that turns the sky itself into a weapon. The impact is decisive. There is no hesitation, no wasted motion. In the harsh arithmetic of survival, efficiency is everything. For prey species, the danger is ever present, yet rarely seen coming. For the eagle, each successful strike is not merely a meal, but the continuation of a lineage shaped by unforgiving landscapes. Golden eagles remain deeply connected to the rhythms of their environment. Harsh winters, shifting prey populations, and human encroachment all exert pressure on their existence. Their survival is not guaranteed by strength alone, but by the delicate balance of ecosystems that sustain them. To witness a golden eagle in flight is to glimpse a living symbol of wilderness itself. A reminder of vast spaces where nature still operates on its own terms. In a world increasingly defined by noise and speed, the eagle embodies something rarer: precision, restraint, and the quiet confidence of a true apex predator. Above Montana's mountains and plains, the golden eagle continues its timeless patrol, a sovereign of air and distance. Unseen by many, unforgettable to those who look up at the right moment, it remains what it has always been. Ave found Phantom of the Mountain Sky. In the rugged landscapes of the American West, where mountains rise sharply from the plains and stone walls cut across the horizon, the bighorn sheep moves with quiet confidence. This is an animal shaped by gravity, wind, and elevation, a climber whose world exists where few others can follow. Bighorn sheep inhabit some of the most unforgiving terrain in North America. Steep slopes, fractured rock, and narrow ledges form a natural fortress against predators. What appears treacherous to most creatures is home to the bighorn, a place where balance is survival and agility is everything. Their powerful bodies are built for this vertical existence. Muscular shoulders, compact frames, and specialized hooves allow them to navigate cliffs with astonishing precision. Each step is calculated, each movement deliberate. On surfaces that seem impossibly steep, they remain steady, almost effortless, as though the mountain itself guides them. Perhaps the most iconic feature of the bighorn sheep is its horns. In males, these sweeping structures curve backward in massive arcs, symbols of strength and maturity. Far more than ornamentation, the horns play a role in social hierarchy, communication, and seasonal displays of dominance. During the rutting season, the mountains echo with one of nature's most dramatic rituals. Survival in vertical terrain is repetition made skill, precision taught by stone. Rams face one another, judge distance, and charge with explosive force. The impact, horn against horn, can be heard across valleys. Yet these clashes, though violent in appearance, are governed by instinct and ritual rather than chaos. Outside these intense seasonal encounters, life for the bighorn sheep is defined by patience and awareness. They graze on sparse mountain vegetation, constantly scanning their surroundings. Vision is critical in this open, elevated world. From high vantage points, they read the landscape for movement, shadow, and change. The mountain environment is both sanctuary and challenge. Winters bring deep snow, biting winds, and scarce food. Summers offer relief, but introduce heat and dehydration. Through it all, the bighorn endures, an expert in conserving energy, selecting routes, and exploiting the subtle advantages of terrain. Social bonds play an important role in their survival. Ewes and lambs form cohesive groups, navigating the cliffs together, while rams often travel separately. Knowledge of safe paths, escape routes, and feeding areas is not random. It is learned, shared, and reinforced across generations. Despite their remarkable adaptations, bighorn sheep face modern pressures unknown to their ancestors. Habitat fragmentation, disease transmission from domestic livestock, and human encroachment have reshaped many of their traditional ranges. Conservation efforts now play a crucial role in preserving these mountain specialists. Yet in protected landscapes, the ancient rhythm continues. On ridgelines and rocky outcrops, bighorn sheep remain a living expression of wilderness animals that embody elevation, resilience, and the enduring power of natural selection. Here, among stone and sky, the bighorn sheep thrives, a climber without equal, perfectly at home in the vertical world of the mountains. High above the winding rivers, silent forests and glacial valleys of North America, a familiar silhouette rules the open sky. The bald eagle, with its broad wings and unmistakable white head, is more than a national symbol. It is a master of air, patience, and precision. Built for dominance in the skies, the bald eagle combines strength with remarkable efficiency. Its vast wingspan allows it to soar for long periods with minimal effort, riding invisible currents of rising air. From these heights, the eagle observes the land below with extraordinary vision, capable of detecting subtle movement across great distances. Unlike many predators defined by relentless pursuit, the bald eagle thrives through timing and energy conservation. It waits, watches, and calculates. A single, well-executed descent often replaces the need for extended chase. This strategy is not only effective, but essential in environments where wasted energy can mean the difference between survival and hardship. Waterways form the true heart of the bald eagle's world. Lakes, rivers, and coastal regions provide both opportunity and stability. Fish make up the foundation of its diet, linking the eagle's existence to the rhythms of aquatic ecosystems. Seasonal changes, spawning cycles, and shifting ice conditions all shape the patterns of movement and hunting success. Yet the bald eagle is not defined solely by predation. It is also a scavenger and opportunist, a reminder that nature rewards adaptability as much as power. Carrion, abandoned catches, and unexpected food sources become part of a flexible survival strategy, reducing risk and maximizing efficiency within a competitive landscape. Despite its commanding presence, the bald eagle's story is also one of fragility and recovery. Once driven to the brink by habitat loss and environmental contamination, populations declined dramatically across the continent. The subsequent return of the species stands as one of conservation's most powerful examples, proof that ecosystems can recover when pressures are understood and reduced. Today, the bald eagle represents balance rather than invincibility. Its survival remains tied to healthy waterways, intact forests, and stable climates. Changes in temperature, pollution levels, and human expansion continue to influence nesting success and food availability. In every soaring arc and silent glide, the bald eagle embodies a deeper truth of wilderness. True dominance is rarely loud or wasteful. It is expressed through patience, awareness, and harmony with the forces of the natural world. Mountain goats are among the most extraordinary inhabitants of North America's high country. In Montana's steepest and most unforgiving landscapes, these resilient climbers move with a level of confidence that seems almost impossible. Where cliffs rise like walls of stone and winter tightens its grip for much of the year, the mountain goat thrives in conditions few other large mammals could endure. Despite their name, mountain goats are not true goats, but belong to a unique lineage perfectly adapted for life at elevation. Their muscular bodies, specialized hooves, and remarkable balance allow them to navigate narrow ledges, fractured rock, and near-vertical slopes with astonishing precision. Each step is deliberate, each movement controlled, a mastery of terrain shaped by millennia of evolution. The goat's thick white coat is one of its most striking features, serving as vital protection against the brutal realities of alpine climates. Long guard hairs shield against wind and snow, while a dense underlayer preserves precious body heat. In a world defined by cold, exposure and sudden storms, insulation is survival. Life in the mountains is governed by energy and efficiency. Food can be scarce, seasons are short, and weather patterns shift without warning. Mountain goats respond with patience rather than haste. They graze on hardy vegetation, lichens, grasses and shrubs that cling to the rocky slopes, extracting nourishment from an environment that appears at first glance almost barren. Yet survival here is not defined by struggle alone. High above the valleys, far from the noise of lower elevations, mountain goats inhabit a realm of silence and sweeping horizons. Thin air carries only the whisper of wind and the distant echoes of shifting stone. It is a landscape of extremes, but also of profound stillness. Their presence speaks to a deeper truth about wilderness. Not all life seeks comfort. Some species are shaped by adversity, by height, by cold, by the very edges of what is possible. The mountain goat is one such species, a symbol of endurance, balance and quiet adaptation in Montana's most dramatic and elevated worlds. Montana is a land defined not by stillness, but by quiet transformation. Beneath its vast skies and rolling plains, change is never absent. It moves slowly, often invisibly, carried by wind, temperature, and time itself. Seasons do not simply pass here. They reshape the rhythm of life. Winter tightens the landscape with cold precision. Snow redraws familiar paths, softening ridgelines and burying the memory of summer beneath white silence. Movement becomes measured. Energy becomes precious. Survival is no longer a strategy, but a constant state of awareness written into every step and every breath. Yet, even in the depth of cold, Montana is not dormant. Life persists in subtle motion. Beneath frozen ground, roots endure. Beneath drifting snow, seeds wait. The land holds its breath, suspended between extremes, preparing for a return that is both inevitable and uncertain. When spring arrives, it does not explode. It releases. Ice loosens its grip. Rivers awaken with renewed force. Light stretches longer across valleys once ruled by shadow. What seemed lifeless reveals itself as patient. What seemed empty proves only hidden. Summer follows with quiet abundance. Grasses reclaim the plains, insects fill the air, migrations complete their ancient circuits. The land hums with activity, yet never feels hurried. Growth unfolds as a continuation rather than an event, as though the entire ecosystem moves according to an older, deeper tempo. Autumn, perhaps more than any other season, defines Montana's identity. Colours shift, temperatures retreat, instincts sharpen. It is a season of preparation, of movement, of decisions shaped by the approaching cold. Every creature reads the same signals, though each responds in its own way. Across all seasons, one truth remains constant. Montana is not a static wilderness, but a living system in perpetual negotiation with climate and time. Weather patterns fluctuate, snow lines wander, rivers carve new edges. The landscape itself participates in the same cycles that govern its inhabitants. These changes are neither dramatic nor trivial. They are the quiet forces that shape behavior, migration and survival across generations. Adaptation is not an isolated event, but an ongoing dialogue between life and environment. To observe Montana is to witness continuity within change, a place where stability emerges not from resistance, but from constant adjustment. Here, endurance is not defined by remaining the same, but by remaining responsive. In this vast terrain, time is the unseen architect. It sculpts valleys, guides rivers, and tests every form of life. And still the land endures, not unchanged, but unbroken. Seasons move across Montana not as sudden events, but as slow negotiations between light, temperature and time. Winter does not simply arrive, it gathers. Autumn does not abruptly end, it loosens its hold. The land shifts in gradients so subtle that only those who remain, those who live within these cycles, fully perceive the transition. Snow begins as a suggestion, a dusting across high ridges, a whitening of distant peaks. Frost traces delicate maps along grasses at dawn. Rivers grow quieter. Wind sharpens. Each signal is small in isolation, yet together they announce a transformation that will redefine every movement, every calculation of survival. For the elk, the bison, the wolves, and the countless smaller lives woven into the plains and mountains, seasonal change is neither spectacle nor inconvenience. It is structure. It is law. Migration routes, feeding strategies, social behavior, all are shaped by rhythms older than memory. Spring carries a different language. Meltwater threads through valleys. Dormant colours stir beneath retreating snow. Sound returns before warmth fully settles. Distant calls, shifting ice, the subtle awakening of motion. Energy flows back into the system, not evenly, not instantly, but with a quiet inevitability. Summer expands the landscape. Boundaries soften. Abundance briefly masks the underlying austerity that defines the region. Yet even at peak vitality, the next transition is already encoded in the lengthening shadows, in the angle of the sun, in the unbroken continuity of the cycle. Montana's seasons are not merely weather patterns, they are the invisible architecture of life here, the force that governs opportunity and imposes limits. To endure is not to resist these changes, but to move with them, to read their signals, to exist within a world where stability is found not in permanence, but in repetition. In this land, time is not measured by clocks, but by thaw and freeze, growth and dormancy, arrival and departure. The landscape does not pause, and nothing living within it can afford to ignore its motion. Montana's wilderness is often imagined as timeless. a landscape untouched by the passage of centuries. Yet even here, change is quietly unfolding. Seasons shift with subtle irregularities. Winters breathe differently. Snow arrives later, melts sooner, and lingers for shorter spans than memory suggests. For the animals of this land, climate is not an abstract concept. It is the architecture of survival itself. Temperature governs energy. Snow depth dictates movement. The timing of spring shapes migration, birth, and renewal. Every alteration, however small, echoes through countless lives. Warmer winters may ease certain hardships, yet they also introduce new uncertainties. Freeze and thaw cycles reshape the texture of the ground. Rivers behave unpredictably. Vegetation patterns adjust. What appears as gentle variation to the human observer may represent profound disruption to species finely tuned by evolution. And still, life persists, adapting, recalibrating, enduring. This is the quiet resilience of nature, not resistance to change, but response to it. Flexibility woven into instinct, survival written not as permanence, but as adjustment. Coexistence, too, defines Montana's future. Humans are not external to these systems. They are participants within them. Roads, settlements, and boundaries intersect ancient roots. Decisions made far beyond mountain ranges influence habitats, migrations, and ecological balances. Yet, coexistence need not imply conflict. Across Montana, vast protected landscapes remain. Corridors still connect valleys to peaks. Conservation efforts, guided by science and stewardship, seek to preserve not a frozen past, but a living continuity. The story of climate here is neither catastrophe nor comfort. It is complexity, a reminder that wilderness is dynamic, not static, that balance is not guaranteed but maintained through countless interactions between land, weather, and life. In Montana, change is not an ending. It is an ongoing negotiation between cold and warmth, stability and adaptation, presence and possibility. Montana does not ask for attention. It does not compete, does not perform, does not rush. It simply exists, vast, patient, and indifferent to the passing concerns of those who briefly move across its surface. Seasons turn without ceremony. Light shifts across valleys and ridgelines that have witnessed thousands of winters, thousands of springs. Snow yields to thaw, rivers swell and retreat, grasses bend to winds that have never learned to rest. Nothing is static, yet nothing feels hurried. Here, survival is not an event, but a condition. Life unfolds through rhythm rather than drama, through continuity rather than spectacle. Wolves, elk, bears, and bison are not characters in isolated stories, but participants in an ancient ongoing system, one defined by balance, limitation, and quiet persistence. Predators and prey, strength and vulnerability, motion and stillness, all are woven into the same fabric. No creature stands apart from the land. Each is shaped by it, constrained by it, sustained by it. Every movement, every migration, Every cautious step is part of a larger equilibrium that rarely reveals itself all at once. Montana's wilderness offers no guarantees. Harsh winters return, drought cycles emerge, fortunes of herds rise and fall. Yet endurance, not certainty, is the constant. Species adapt, landscapes recover, systems reorganize. Over time, resilience proves more fundamental than stability. For those who observe long enough, another truth becomes visible. Wilderness is not defined by the absence of hardship, but by the presence of continuity. Life persists not because conditions are easy, but because they are endured, negotiated and repeated across generations. And beyond the visible, beyond mountains, plains and rivers, lies something less tangible yet unmistakable, a sense of scale, a reminder that human timelines are brief, that our urgencies are temporary, that the processes shaping this land operate on durations far exceeding individual lives. To witness such a place is to encounter perspective. The drama of daily existence softens. The illusion of permanence dissolves. What remains is a quieter awareness that nature is neither fragile nor invincible, but dynamic, constantly adjusting, constantly responding, constantly becoming. Montana endures not as a frozen moment in time, but as a living system. Winds will continue to move across open country. Rivers will continue to carve and carry. Herds will continue to travel ancient routes. Predators will continue to listen, to watch, to wait. Long after individual stories fade, the land remains, vast, evolving and profoundly unconcerned with being seen. And perhaps that is its greatest lesson. Not conquest, not control, not urgency, but presence.